Hey family, you already know what time it is. I'm Tasha, MAMABEAR prepping. Get your drink, pull up. Let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about a lot about what's going on with our eggs. We're going to talk about the attacks that have continued to happen for the last several years on aspects of our food, growing food yourself, where places we get food. And, this has been kind of the talk about, well, it's conspiracy theorists to think that, I say that loosely, would, attack our food. Well, whoever controls the food controls the people. And it's no, I guess, secret that you have all these entities that want to take over control of the people, okay? And we've seen this. First, it was with eggs. We'll just use eggs for example, and then I'll show you how these attacks have been working against us or with us. With eggs, for example, first it was the shortages. Can't find eggs. There's no eggs. There's no eggs. People got a little panic, started getting backyard birds, because people were, nervous they weren't going to be able to get eggs, right? You have people dehydrating eggs, freezing eggs, basically getting eggs in their long storage preps, so that they had eggs as an option for the future. So eggs, dealt with a shortage. Then we dealt with prices. Recently, within the last month, we've dealt hardcore with prices. Super high prices. Everybody who's growing chickens feeling like a boss. I'm feeling like a boss, because you feel like you have some little bit of control of where your food's coming from, and that you're doing that. You are a direct result of receiving that product, right? And a lot of folks have been posting the ridiculous prices that they're paying for eggs, whether it's organic, free range, regular eggs. It doesn't matter. They're expensive, and people are having a hard time being able to get eggs. Limits on eggs, just the whole drama with how much it's costing people to get eggs. Then recently, I don't know if you've saw, but there was a huge fire in the third biggest egg farming business, right? Fire. Now, I know any of you that have been following me for a while, a fire, really? We've seen this. This is a pattern. There is a pattern with the fires. And I'm going to circle back to the fires so that you can see the pattern that I'm talking about. So fires. And then there's also at the same time all this misinformation campaign, all these articles, if you've noticed, coming out about how it could be dangerous to have backyard birds. They could get the avian flu. You can get sick from them. They just all this misinformation about eggs, but mostly chickens and raising chickens, and why maybe you want to second guess raising your own chickens, right? And it's just ridiculous, because the whole point is to get yourself away from having to depend on people. I really cannot talk today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just really messing up my words. Maybe I haven't drank enough coffee. I don't know, but I apologize for that. Just sounding real slow over here. But we just have a big problem with the eggs, and this is, I guess, the known crisis right now. We've been dealing with multiple layers of this egg crisis, and it's really coming to a head. Now, the fires. This is where I say it's getting a little too far. Every single time you have an influx of people, and for a lot of people that was COVID happened, and people were at home, and whether they started a garden out of fun for them and their family, or inflation came and then they started a garden because they were trying to offset those prices and grow stuff themselves and learn something, there's been a problem with our food being attacked. So anytime there's an influx of that, stuff gets attacked. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. Okay, so for example, going over the last 2 years, people have been stockpiling food. COVID happened. People have been concentrating ever since the toilet paper craze and different, mountains of issues that have happened, whether it was the toilet paper, whether it was the Lysol, was the sanitation, it was masks, whether it was, moving forward, can't find eggs, can't find different things that they needed, right? Formula for babies, medicine for children. Those things that happen, those mountains of like a crisis that happens, where I say it's a mountain because it explodes and all these people like know all of a sudden and they're talking about it. Those things happening cause people to want to stockpile, to want to think about what they have in their home and to ensure they have one or two extra, right? So you have this whole group of people who are stockpiling more. It also started with the crisis of the container ships and that whole backup, that whole catastrophe thing. That had a lot of people preparing more. The railroad crisis, all these things have people in general preparing more, right? Stockpiling more, buying more, thinking about the future. And we went through a period, and it's continuing to happen, but the last few years, we've had a slew, probably more than 50 food distribution type fires, food distribution plants, distribution centers that have been destroyed in fire. No apparent reason, just caught fire, huge warehouses, huge buildings full of food going up in smoke. And of course, a lot of us were like, what's going on? This is crazy. Like this cannot be a coincidence of what's going on with these food distribution places all catching fire. To me, that's an attack. That's a deliberate attack on the food to make a situation worse. It's just not good. Then we ran into a fertilizer. Remember, we had a fertilizer problem. Shortages at first, prices. Then there was a whole thing where the fertilizer and dirt and compost and fertilizer was bad, where you had farmers and stuff talking about all their plants died and there was something in the bag, right, that was not good for plants, and there was a fertilizer issue. We also at the same time had huge fertilizer distribution centers, places that, put together the bags of fertilizer and whatever for consumers, catching fire, right? So here we are, another crisis, another thing that people can't find. There's a shortage, or there's some kind of conspiracy that something's in it, right? Because everything, if you go against what they want, that's a conspiracy, right? But people were questioning, hey, what's in this dirt? What's in this fertilizer? What's in this? And all of a sudden we're having all these fires too, where people can't get fertilizer, and they're talking about farmers can't get fertilizer. If there's a shortage, they can't grow food, they can't grow crops. Now you've stopped them in their tracks, right? If you're burning down food distributions, you're burning down fertilizer places, you're, taking the ability where farmers now are having a hard time being able to grow food, you've taken that ability away, right? That control, that food control, right? Recently, with the eggs, we've had an issue. A few people are reporting that there's bad stuff in the in the feed for chickens, right? Certain people or companies are being named as their feed has changed, right? What's happening is companies are buying out companies, which is a normal thing. But what they're doing is then they buy that out. And then, of course, to cut cost, or maybe it's more, but to cut costs is what I'm going to call it, you start to take stuff out. For example, if you have birds that lay, they need to have high protein. You kind of know this if you've done any research on birds. The protein amount goes up depending on what type of bird it is, and so that they have a good amount of protein to be able to lay eggs. And folks, ever since September, have noticed their birds were not laying eggs. Now, I'm not talking about the normal winter. Maybe you have some birds that are uncomfortable, are colder, are just like, the days are shorter, I just don't want to lay right now. No, these are people who have been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years and have noticed there was a big decline with 0 eggs. Not a couple girls that just don't want to do it, or hey, it's a period of time, maybe for a month, 2 months, nobody's laying eggs. This was a very long time, and they started doing some research and realized that ingredients had changed in their bags. Therefore, their girls weren't laying anymore because their protein wasn't up, right? Some names, like some really popular companies, Demur, however you say it, Purina, right? So make sure you're taking a look that the feed that you've been using continues to have the amount of ingredients it's supposed to have, continues to have the right amount of protein. You need to take a look at that. I take that as a personal attack, because I don't care if you're a company trying to save money and it's as innocent as that, even though that is not innocent at all, right? When you're trying to take something out, you have customers who are adamant about using your product maybe because it has something, and then you get bought out, and then you just start deleting stuff, right? Deleting stuff that animals need, these particular animals need, right? So it's not cool that whatever that decision was made. Or maybe it's more nefarious, right? There's something else going on here, conspiracy theorist type. But I know that there's a problem with feed, and I take it as a personal attack, because now you have to shift gears. What if you had been stockpiling feed, right? You have folks now on Instagram, all these social medias, YouTube, everywhere screaming, there's something wrong with the feed, change at your feed. I've seen several ladies and I've gotten emails from people saying, change your feed now to goat feed. So I have several people changing it to goat feed completely, like they're completely shifting gears, and they're like, I'm not even going to mess with this, right? So take a look at the ingredients, take a look what you're doing. You need to really understand and continue to look at labels. I mean, looking at labels for everything right now is important, because crazy stuff is being put in our food as well, okay? What else? So fertilizers, let's get back to the fires and the attacks. Do you remember when there was a problem with gas shortages? People couldn't get gas. Maybe there was attacks on our pipelines, different things, right? There was stuff that was sabotaged, whatever. Or whatever reason, gas prices, and you couldn't get stuff, right? Do you remember that all the distribution places that were catching fire, the oil refinery places that were catching fire, they were seeing a shortage on just even like car oil and different oils for different stuff. And then all of a sudden, those distribution centers that sell that type of stuff were catching fire. It's just ridiculous how in our face it can be as far as these fires. That when there's a shortage, shortly after that, you're seeing these reports of fires all of a sudden. It's almost like, do they think they're doing that to then trick the public to be, oh, well, the shortage is because you see all this stuff that's on fire? I mean, that's why the shortage is. It's not because of our government or anything that they're doing or anything that anybody else is doing. It makes sense. I mean, there's been a lot of fires, and that's why there's a shortage, right? So there's a piece, what bothers me is there's a piece of the, community, society that is going to believe and maybe seen that and be like, oh, well, I know why there's a shortage. I seen this article and it, right? And just not understanding the big picture that this is happening every single time. The egg place, the fertilizer place, oil refineries burning up, food distribution places firing up. There's just way too many coincidental fires and situations and resulting in fire of these places with food. So this is what I would tell you, right? Because I don't want to leave you with just this boom, boom, boom and no solution. What I would say is, I'll say this. I had somebody who asked me, how are you so good with chickens already? You just started, I like your chicken coop and you just seem to like really know the stuff about chickens and stuff. And I'm thinking like, well, duh, I literally know how to go into a search bar and ask the questions that I have, right? I had a couple homesteading books. They had chapters on chickens. I read those. I did a ton of research online. A lot of that just started with asking a question and then getting all the answers and seeing all the different, and if it was something that was, a couple people saying a couple different things, I just did some more research, right? But like, I'm not some genius, right? I just did some research well before I got the chicks. Even when we were getting the chicks, we were still doing research because of the list of chicks that, Ace Hardware had at the time, which is where we got our chicks. I was like, get the list of what they have. We went and physically checked out and marked the ones that we liked, obviously just off of like their color and, oh, they're pretty, oh, they're cute, and marked them off. And then we went home and I researched all of them. More, even the ones that I didn't mark. And because there's stuff that's important, like how big are the eggs? How often do they lay? How early will they start laying? How long will they lay for? Like how many years? How many years for life cycle will they naturally die, right? All those things are important when you're thinking about chickens and what type of chickens. Are your chickens for meat or are they for eggs, right? So we did that, and we ended up not getting the cutest chicks, right? We got the ones that made sense for us, that gave us the most options, that are layers and meat birds. They're both, right? We got the prolific egg layers, right, as far as the year and how much that they lay, you know, egg size, decent. They're actually real, I mean, they just started laying like 2 days ago. They're still very small. So I'm hoping that the egg gets a little bit bigger, but just beautiful, 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 super exciting. And you can teach yourself. We don't have a rooster because of where we live. We could have a rooster, but we do have a lot of neighbors that are very, very close to us. And so, you know, we want to move. We want to move. And when we move, roosters will be introduced. But I would say is look at your city laws, especially if you have, I get it, you live somewhere you absolutely can't get them, but look at your city, call your city up, right? Call your county up, see what you can do. If you're in a suburban area and you're not under like HOA and different regulations like that, there's a very good chance that you can get just a handful of chicks, right? Two or three. We only have 3, right? We're baby stepping this. But let me tell you, we already know once we move, we're getting way more. We're going to have roosters. You know, hubby acts all day long like, I'm not a chicken person. This is your baby, you know, this is my area, right? And I just knew he's going to build me whatever I want. He's going to help me, you know, make whatever chicken coop and whatever I want, right? Whatever's my heart's desire, he's going to give me, right? And that's awesome. But let me just tell you, he is falling in love with those chickens, and he will not admit it. But he'd be over there, you know, balking at them, going in. The other day, this weekend, right? I had gone out there, and we've been doing sand, and he's been building all the wood part around it. And they had been let out for the day, and I had already gone out there about like 8:39, giving him some snacks, gave him some beetles and some mealworm, and gave him some other little scratch mix. Took it out there, and he goes out there to do a different project, and he comes running in the back door, and he's like, where's the snacks? And I was like, what snacks? Like, your snacks are right here. Here's the no. And he's like, no, the chickens. And I was like, oh, I already gave them their morning snacky or whatever. And he's like, well, I wanted to give him the snacky. It was phenomenally great, you guys. So he got a little bowl, got a little snack, and I was like, not too much. And he's like, I want to be able to give them. So super excited to see a grown man, just super excited. Like, those are his babies now. He wanted to give him a little snack. So he goes out there and he's like giving him a little snacky. And I just thought it was the greatest for somebody who was like, I'm not going to mess with the chickens. That's like your thing. You're the chicken lady, whatever, right? Also, additionally, last night caught him. Well, we'll see. So he'll watch sometimes, you know, he'll get stuck on Instagram land, right? Reels. And he's just going through them. And he'll send me funny ones from time to time. Like, I'll open my phone and maybe he sent me like 5 if he's just sitting there grinding, right? And I noticed yesterday he had sent me like 5 videos. You guys, they were all chicken videos. They were all like tips for chickens, funny chicken videos, funny just chicken lady videos. He's sending me all this stuff, just like, man, I got stuck on chicken videos. I just think it's really, really funny, because do not assume your family's not going to love this. Do not assume that they're going to think you're a weirdo. Just do it, because it's a bonding type thing. My kiddo gets so excited to go up there and check for eggs. He almost, totally freaked out the first day when there was actually an egg. Came running in, didn't touch it, came running in. There's an egg. Like, the whole family was, you know, awake and like so excited, right? So the last couple of days have been super, super excited for us. But, you know, going out there, holding them, petting them, I just think it's hilarious, right? But chickens, it's super important. And I think that we have to get to self-sufficiency. That's the goal. And you can't let all this misinformation scare you and, oh, don't do it. It's just like the canning food where they're like, you're going to die from botulism. You're not going to do it right, and you're going to die, and you're going to kill your whole family, and yada, yada, yada. But when you look at the stats, and if you do it right, the thing is slow down and research and do things the right way. If you do things the right way, your chances go way down of that ever coming anywhere close to you and your family. You know how to check jars when you open them before you eat them. I mean, it's common sense, okay? And the stats are super, super low. But the way they talk about it is every other jar is going to have botulism in it, and you're taking, you know, a huge risk every time, you know, you can food and eat from canned food. So, We have to stop letting them do this, because if we let them get us to the point where they're totally controlling the food, it's gonna be a problem. How about this? Hubby saw an article the other day, and I don't know how I feel about this 100%, but he came across his feed a video about Colorado, the state of Colorado, making it illegal to have any kind of other eggs, that the only eggs you can buy now in Colorado are free-range chicken eggs. Let me know. I know a few of you that live in Colorado, so maybe I'll hit you up and ask you, but is that true about the state of Colorado making it where it's only free-range chickens? So at first I think, oh, earthy, and like all the hippies, like, it's gotta be free-range. I feel a little bit for the people that don't have backyard chickens and have to buy eggs, and like free-range chicken eggs are not cheap. I mean, they weren't cheap before. They're definitely not cheap now. And so that might hurt my soul if I was forced to only have the bougie eggs, right? And if you are hurting for money, right? But I kind of like the idea of, because to me, it's like you almost push the agenda of like, so just get you some chickens, baby, so you're not paying for those free-range eggs, from the store. It just pushes you more to like, hey, have them eggs in your backyard, get your chickens, give yourself that self-sustainable aspect, right? It's not huge. We have 3 chickens. It's not like we're feeding the world over here, but it's amazing, and it's fun, and it's bonding, and it's something for you. Hubby always says this all the time. If all we have is rice and eggs, we're golden. We are golden, right? Of course, we want other things to supplement that. But, when you talk about like starvation and starving and whatever, he's like, yo, a bowl of rice with an egg, forget about it. Delicious, right? In so many ways you can cook it, right? He's like, an egg and potatoes, an egg with some pasta. He's like, think about all the staples and you throw an egg with that. He's like, he feels like we've stepped our game up hugely with just when you talk about stockpiling staples, and we've just added a staple, if you will, in his eyes, that he's like, if that's all we're eating, I'm happy, right? And you throw some little fresh greens in there that you're growing, some spinach, whatever, you're good to go, okay? So super excited. Do not let this egg debacle, this whole mess with eggs, discourage you from moving forward with things. Do not let it discourage you if you are just a consumer and trying to stockpile. You need to get eggs, continue to get eggs, and then stockpile them, right? Get your number 10 cans or your Thrive cans, whatever, but get your cans of your dehydrated eggs, right? I can't stress that enough. Go ahead and get some frozen and in the freezer. I expect that those could, defrost one day and I don't have them, right? So I like to have eggs all different ways. If you have a freeze dryer, freeze dry some eggs. Like, make sure if you have the backyard chickens, right, you're raising them. And once you get enough where you can, put some in some lime wash and do that, and put them on the shelf that way, do that, right? I think that it's just super important to be thinking about how you're going to continue to get eggs in your diet, eggs for the long term, right? It's one of those foods that is a must-have food in our preps, in our stockpiles, and moving forward, growing and raising on our property. And again, it's another thing that pushes us to move, because we need roosters. We need several roosters. We need to move somewhere where we can have more chickens. Now, I can have way more chickens in my location. I think I can have 20 is my max. So there's regulations on my number of chickens. I think I can have a rooster, but I just live too close. And there's regulations on like the size of like your coop, like how tall, but they're very, very accommodating sizes, right? It's not like something small. It's very large size that it can be, way bigger than what we have, right? And way taller. So, call your city, call them, see what you can do. And if you're like us, trying to move on, trying to go to a new place, and find something better, we're running out of time. And I say we, if you are the same, we are the same. We're running out of time for that to be an option, right? And for there to even be options out there, right? We're running into already just the amount of houses and land that's available in our budget and where we want to go. That's becoming an issue. And so we're hoping that May, June, that housing market opens back up. Even if we have to pay a little bit more, I don't think that's going to be the problem. I think the interest rate is getting to a problem. And then, of course, if everything just crashes, our options go down the tube, right? So, I don't know, baby. We'll see. All you can do is push forward and set you and your family up for that when these catastrophes happen, these accidental fires and these attacks on our food happen, that it's not a time to panic. It's just a time to think about, okay, like they're not playing. They're really going to continue to do this stuff. And it just gives you a bigger urgency to just continue to do, or even a validation to continue to do what you do, because nothing can be trusted, right? So anyway, happy Monday. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the next video. Take care. Bye.